Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing.
Well, what revelations are coming out today is operatives in the Democratic Party went after No Labels.
Yeah, No Labels,
Wait,
the group that explain what No Labels is.
How do you? I'm shocked.
Like there's gambling in
No
Vegas.
No Labels is the organization that Nancy Jacobson was running and putting Democrats and Republicans together. And the DNC, I understand, and we have the Washington Post reported it today, which is a Democratic paper.
Very big story.
And a very, very big story that they sabotaged No Labels.
What they try to do is keep any other candidates off the state ballots. Okay, and if they were going to be made qualified for state ballots, they were going to put in turkeys. They were going to put in turkeys on that. And I don't mean Thanksgiving turkeys.
Turkeys. Speaking of turkeys,
does that mean when Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats promised Kevin McCarthy, don't worry, we will back you up. We will back you up if you vote for us for the budget, and then we'll back you up when the other Republicans don't back you up.
Sure. What happened was that not a single member of the Democratic caucus supported Kevin McCarthy, and none of the No Labels Democrats supported McCarthy.
I used to have a certain. go ahead, Judge.
No, you're right, Congress. Go ahead.
I used to have a certain regard for Nancy Pelosi. She respected the institution. She really tore down the institution when she went along with the bringing down of Kevin McCarthy.
Wait till you find out what happened January 6th. You were a believer.
Well, we can discuss that later.
Here we go again.
You were a believer.
I still think Nancy Pelosi, that Donald Trump was wrong that day, and there's no way he can get out of it. Well, all I know, he was silent for 3 hours while the Capitol was being attacked.
So was Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, well, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about.
They never brought in the troops, and why doesn't he?
Well, then why didn't Trump send them in? Why didn't Trump send them in?
But he did.
He did not.
Tell him about what happened to generals. You don't know the facts.
To send them in.
I do know the facts. There's no way you can hide it.
It is on record that he asked to send them in.
And what general?
And that
Which general said?
General Milley, and also there were others.
He was a Pelosi ally.
And there were, but that's the problem. They sabotaged
Trump is the
him.
commander-in-chief. He should have done it.
He did. He issued the order.
Did he go on national television once? Did he say one word on
the order?
He did not say a word on national television while that was going on. His family was begging him to.
Screwed up.
It was a terrible mistake.
But he issued the order to have the National Guard.
And there were multiple people who said it.
The nation was a crisis. The President of the United States stayed silent. His family was begging him. Fox News was begging him. Sean Hannity was begging him. Everyone was begging him.
All right, so here, Pete, days before, he was begging them to send the troops in, and the Secretary of Defense and a number of others said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it.
We need another song.
If he felt that strongly, he should have done something. If he felt that strong, he's the President.
We need a song.
Yeah, we do. By the way, we've got a great song.
We have a great song.
We got a great song, Pete. We got a great song.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
And the reason
my favorite song.
It is? I didn't know that until now. Okay, well now we know
smoke
it.
Pot?
I didn't inhale.
Oh, I've heard that before. By the way, so the reason we're playing it, and this is getting heated as we love this, Hotel California, Caitlyn Jenner, get this. This is, talk about, you'd never imagine this matchup.
You're not going to get me into this one now.
Well, we're going to try. Caitlyn Jenner could be maybe matching up and fighting for the governorship in California against Kamala Harris. Can you imagine that one?
You know what that proves? Californians never learned their lesson. And the Democrats never learned their lesson.
Yeah, she's saying, in fact, Kamala Harris is putting out the word now, is saying, I've obviously gotten so much popularity. Where am I going to go? What do you think's her future, Pete?
I don't think she has one right now. I mean,
Thank you, Congressman.
Really.
Thank you. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I think Caitlyn Jenner might win.
She might. She might.
Are they going to ask anybody to drop her drawers to see if it is a man or a woman?
Well, maybe Nancy Mace might ask that. I don't know. That's the whole discussion too. That's going on in Capitol Hill.
By the way, we
yes.
had a turkey day today.
Yes. Oh, it was an awesome day, John. And I want to tell everybody also to go to WABCFoundation.com if they want to make a donation. This was, and the mayor was out there. It was a great day.
Today. Everybody was there. The fire, AARP, and the Police Athletic League. So we take care of the old, we take care of the young.
And also Gristides, Catholic Charities. It was amazing.
And, Joe Parisi worked hard at that.
Absolutely.
And Gristides, I think, collected enough money for all the turkeys that we're giving out today.
How beautiful.
And Bill O'Reilly gave a donation.
He's the best.
And it was a beautiful day. NYPD was there in force. The fire department was there in force. And it was an overall great morning feeding the hungry.
Good for you. And by the way, speaking of in force, you were on fire this morning with our friend Sid Rosenberg.
I came up with the new, maybe Peter King hasn't heard it yet. The new.
You ready, Pete?
I'm ready.
He's ready.
What did I do now?
The new battle cry of the Republic. The Republic of the United States of America. The battle cry.
I love this line.
Immigration, yes. Invasion, no.
What do you think, Pete?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen.
That we agree on 1,000%. Absolutely.
We agree on that, right, Pete?
And by the way,
1,000%.
if everybody wants to see the turkey drive, and Rich Radabali, you got to make sure I told him to put it on the website. We have a 7-minute video of what it looked like this morning, and I urge you, go to the video, we're giving away all the turkeys, and if you like what you see on the video on the WABCRadio.com, you can always donate too.
Yep, WABC
John, if I can just put a word about Joe
Foundation.
Parisi, he and I always kid each other, but he does a great job on these projects.
He's
I
amazing.
hate to admit it, but he really does a great job.
And
I want
to give a shout out also to Rabbi Potasnik.
Rabbi
by the way,
Potasnik, yes.
What a great guy.
Yes.
He just called us just before 5 o'clock, and
Yeah,
what happened?
and he said that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, that they are making a donation of $1 million to the Chabad of UAE that's United Arab Emirates.
The rabbi was killed.
The rabbi was killed there. Horrible.
It was a terrorist killing.
Horrible
and what's
killing.
the name of the rabbi?
So, what is the rabbi's name?
Kagan.
Rabbi Pagan, and
Kagan.
Kagan, and he was there at UAE in Dubai. Dubai's usually, obviously, they're very welcoming typically, and we don't know what the story is with the whole background, but he was killed. And bravo for the rabbi for giving us the attention to this and donating $1 million to the Chabad there,
All right.
Ivanka and Jared.
2-year-old.
Yeah. Horrible case.
Oh,
this
God.
2-year-old child from Venezuela shows up at the border, John, and they're asking, where's your parents?
And she has a note.
We don't know.
She had a note, Rita.
Yeah, had a note, and then said, they're somewhere here, I think. Here's this child. Can you imagine? Where are the Democrats, as we've been talking about? Where's the outrage of a 2-year-old child, unaccompanied, showing up at the border, saying, I'm looking for my parents here, essentially. I mean, and there are apparently 60 kids that showed up in this latest group that showed up at Eagle Pass, Texas, Pete.
But,
this is horrible.
That place that does, in Las Vegas, that does the gambling, the sports gambling and political gambling, we got to put it out there and have all the all the Californians vote. Does Caitlyn have it or doesn't have it?
What do you think, Judge Weinberg? As an attorney, what do you think?
I'm going to reserve decision on that one.
By the way, speaking of craziness, therapy sessions. Did you hear this? Antony Blinken was asked, "Is it really true?" And apparently it is. After Trump won, the State Department, the Biden State Department, offered therapy sessions to people who were having a hard time with Trump winning.
Do you know who needs therapy? Blinken.
Yes.
For Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, all
That's
of them.
What they need.
But,
all of them.
You know who also does? Jack Smith.
Absolutely. Oh, by the way, Jack Smith.
Let's talk to Dershowitz about it.
All right. Well, joining us now is Professor Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, some big news. Yeah, as of course, Jack Smith says, I'm dropping it. I'm dropping the cases. Finally, right?
Yeah, I know. First, I want to contribute to the Turkey Fund, and I also am going to send a contribution to UME in memory of that of Rabbi Kagan. You know,
bravo.
Kagan is another name for Cohen. The word Kagan is kind of if you are a Cohen, your name is either going to be Kaplan or Cohen or Kagan. And I work very closely with Chabad. Chabad has just agreed to send 300,000 copies of my new pamphlet, The 10 Big Anti-Israel Lies and How to Refute Them with Truth, to Chabad's on 300 campuses around the country. So we're going to have 300,000 copies of that sent out by Chabad. I'm a big supporter of Chabad, and I was just invited to UME with my wife, and we're deciding not to go. We don't think it's safe for Jews in light of what happened to Rabbi Kagan. So getting back to Trump, of course, as you know, I predicted this was going to happen a long time ago, that these federal charges would inevitably be dropped, certainly after the Supreme Court's decision on immunity. Too little, too late. Obviously, these cases should never have been brought. Now the focus legitimately turns to New York, where the worst prosecutor in my memory has made the worst prosecutorial decision in my memory, going after President Trump on a non-disclosure agreement barred by the statute of limitations. The time has come, long overdue, for that charge to be dropped as well as the Fani Willis charge in Georgia. We have to start January 20th with a clean slate, with an American president overwhelmingly elected, with the support of all Americans, whether you voted for him or not, and with the end of lawfare. No more lawfare. You know, I invented that term lawfare in the 1970s, and it's been used so horribly now for so many years, coupled with Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, it certainly has. Professor Dershowitz, Judge Weinberg.
Alan, I want to raise with you the International Criminal Court with their arrest warrants and your wonderful op-ed piece today in the Wall Street Journal, in which you say you're putting together a dream team. Would you tell our listeners about that, please?
Yeah, would you join the dream team? That's number one.
Hey!
I'd be happy to join. Thank you.
That's great. So we put together, within hours of the announcement of the warrant, I made calls. I just dropped everything, and I called two former attorney generals of the United States, a former solicitor general, the former head of the FBI, you all know him, Louis Freeh. They all immediately joined and agreed to become part of the legal team, not only in the court of The Hague, but in the court of public opinion, to defend Israel and Israel's leaders against these blood libels, these charges that are so completely and totally false. By the time the op-ed piece appeared in today's Wall Street Journal, I had dozens and dozens more great lawyers from England, from Germany, from France, all over the world joining us. And we're going to take on the International Criminal Court. It has no jurisdiction at all, and none of the charges are in any way true.
What is Trudeau doing, saying if Netanyahu lands in Canada, he's going to have him arrested?
If he has him arrested, the United States should impose sanctions on Trudeau, and no American should set foot in Canada. What an abomination. I knew Trudeau's father. I remember when Trudeau's father invoked the War Emergency Act, denying the civil liberties to every member of Canada because of the terrorism. And I worked with Pierre Trudeau on that. He was a great man. His son's a fool, and his son is just completely, totally dominated by ideologues of the hard left in his party and by Muslims. Let's also remember that Canada, when they were asked to bring 100 Jews from the Holocaust, the Minister of Absorption famously said, even one is too many. Even one is too many. They wouldn't allow a single Jew in. Starting right after the war in 1945, they allowed in hundreds of thousands of Nazis from Ukraine, from other places, and filled the center of Canada with people with Nazi backgrounds. So, you know, Canada has a long, sordid history of anti-Semitism, pro-Nazism, and, for years it was fine. But now it's coming back, and Trudeau is leading this horrible campaign against Israel. If he dares to try to arrest Netanyahu, who goes to Canada. A few years ago, Netanyahu went to Canada. He wasn't allowed to speak at Concordia University because they couldn't provide enough security. People were trying to kill him. That's Canada. So next time you have a vacation,
don't go to Canada.
Go to Puerto Rico, go to another place, but don't go to Canada.
One more thing, Professor. It's revelations came out today. We just talked about it with Rita and the judge and Peter, and that the Democratic Party sabotaged no labels from front page of the Washington Post.
I'm not surprised. You know, I worked, as you know, with Joe Lieberman. We were writing an op-ed together the moment he died, and they were terrified of no labels. It's just wrong. Do you know another revelation? You know, Jack Smith, the guy who's disgraced himself. He was on the International Criminal Court for years.
God!
That's where he learned how to persecute innocent people.
That's
at the
fitting.
International Criminal Court. Now, when you get somebody who is part of the get Trump mentality in Washington and part of the International Criminal Court, you know he's no good.
Yep.
Hey, Alan, this is Pete King. Let me just say one thing, get on the record right away. As an Irish American, I think it's absolutely horrible that Ireland also said they will honor the ICC arrest warrant. It's absolutely disgraceful. And I'm saying that as a proud Irish American. I'm not proud of that.
Let me tell you about that. There is no group in America more supportive of Israel than Irish Americans. They have been fantastic since the earliest days when Irish Americans helped with the establishment of Israel, arms to Israel. But Ireland, in recent years, has turned against Israel. But, you know, thank God there are many, many, many more Irish Americans than there are people in Ireland. And so Irish Americans have more influence over the attitudes. I mean, you know, look at the Catholic Church in New York is so dominated by incredibly wonderful Irish Americans and people of other background, and they all support Israel. But go to Ireland itself. I've been on Irish radio. You can't get a fair shake.
Ireland has become too European. It's really terrible. I have one more question. Do you think Jack Smith could try to bring these cases back, or somebody try to bring these back in 4 years, or is it dead?
No, I think they're dead, and they should be not buried, but immolated in flames, because they never should have been brought in the first place. And
are we going to get down to the bottom of it? Who pushed the buttons? Who pushed the buttons for all these state indictments to happen? Because somebody pushed them, Professor.
Well, look at Alvin Bragg. He's running for re-election. He has two cases that will be remembered. One, of course, Donald Trump. He got a jury to vote to convict. Anybody could have because of the way the judge handled it unfairly. And the other is the Penny case, and he's going to lose that. So he's running for re-election. He is trying so hard to protect himself from being thrown out of office, but I hope he's thrown out of office.
You're not too old to run, Professor.
All right, I am too old to run, but
no.
And I'm not a New York resident, so I'm not going to be able to run. But I will support any legitimate, reasonable person who runs.
How about Randy Mastro?
Look, I don't know names particularly, but Arthur Aidala. I'll put him up there anytime.
I hear a rumor, Arthur Aidala, they're going to make U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
So.
Yeah,
that would be great. Great guy. I certainly supported that with my friends in the Trump administration. So I hope we'll get the U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District.
We got to go. We got to go to our next guest.
Thank you, Professor.
We love you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And I'm working Thanksgiving Day if you want to come on.
Yeah, same with me. Same with me. Come join us. Thanks, Professor. And we have Ron Vitello. He is a former chief of Border Patrol, also a former acting ICE director. Ron,
they're heading for the borders, 200,000 of them.
But get this, John. This is incredible. The ACLU, I couldn't wait to ask you about this, Ron, is calling on President Biden and the Biden administration to open the detention centers, to get everybody out, essentially close them down, evacuate them, and do it before Trump comes in. You can't make this up, Ron. This is incredible.
Will they ever learn, Rita? This is the woke policies that caused Biden and Harris to lose the last election and propel Donald Trump to victory and back into the Oval Office. The policy that allows people to believe that entering the country illegally is not a crime is one that's detrimental. It's detrimental to the politics of the Democratic Party. They can still go and keep going down that road. But it also hurts every single American citizen. And that's where people don't realize, these politicians don't realize that America has wanted a secure border for a very, very long time. The entirety of my adult life, and certainly after 9/11, you're in New York, so you know how people felt in the aftermath of 9/11. DHS was created to protect us from those kinds of threats. And these leftists and these woke Democrats haven't learned their lessons and they want us all to pay for their woke ideology.
You know what's incredible? I'm just looking at this because this just crosses a little bit ago, Ron Vitello. Somerville, Mass, okay? It's a city there in Massachusetts. And they just had a horrible crime just recently. It was this Brazilian guy who had like a long rap sheet, committed this horrible sexual assault. Luckily, ICE got him. But now the city council in Somerville is reaffirming their rights to a sanctuary city policy. It's like, what are they looking at that obviously the rest of America is saying resoundingly, we wanted Trump because we want safe communities. What is Somerville and all these other cities like LA, remember, just recently did the same thing?
It's so destructive. These politicians, I don't think they run on a platform of we're just going to let crime run free in our streets, protect people who are in the country illegally, who also commit crimes against the citizens in our city and town. It's crazy to me that they still believe that deporting people who are in the country illegally and have committed other crimes is somehow a bad thing. I just don't understand. Every mayor, every chief of police has to consider the crime in their county, their city, their town, whatever it is. Do you want to reduce crime by up to 25% in some of these large cities? Well, deport all the criminals that are here illegally as fast as you can. You're going to reduce crime in every single city and town in America. I don't understand what the logic. There's no logic to it. This is them feeling good about themselves. But
it's at such a disgrace to the American public, Ron, and you understand it all too well, especially because the Trump administration has come out and said their priority on day one is going to be the deportation of those convicted, especially of crimes. I mean, they have 13,000 that are convicted of homicide, and another 2,000 pending. They got 15,000 with sex offense. I mean, who in their right mind would say, I'm going to protect this person?
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a 1.5 million people living amongst us who have already been through their due process in immigration court and been ordered by the judge to be removed and deported. So why are they standing up for folks like that? That makes no sense whatsoever. These are people who came illegally, got put in front of the court. The court said you have no relief under current U.S. law. You need to go back home. And you have cities, you have mayors, you have governors that want to stand in front of the ICE detention ban or something to stop this work from occurring. It's crazy. And oh, by the way, it's federal immigration law. It's not something that Donald Trump brings with him to the White House. It's already on the books. It was signed by president. It was a bipartisan piece of legislation that makes it illegal and deportable offense to commit crimes in the United States while having immigration status or being here illegally.
Yeah, absolutely. Judge Weinberg?
And Ron, let's not forget under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 2, aiding and abetting. So it's my position that any of these government officials that resist lawful orders, not just failure to cooperate, but actually resist lawful orders, should be prosecuted under that statute. What are your thoughts?
No, I think the Justice Department has a long list of things to do in these woke blue cities and towns and maybe states, and that is one of them. Let's put some examples up in front of the American public. Here's a mayor or here's a city councilman that's standing in the way of ICE operations to go after the worst of the worst. And yeah, let's get those people in front of the U.S. attorney and in front of a magistrate, and let's prosecute them for the actual crime of aiding and abetting people who are in the country illegally.
I agree. Throw the book at
we have
them.
to go to a break, Rita.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Keep protecting those borders.
Thank you for your service, Ron.
And what was your line again, John? Immigration, yes. Invasion, no.
A new.
I love that.
A new war. What did I call? What did I say before?
Well, it was right. A new slogan.
A new slogan for America. We protect our republic. Immigration, yes. Invasion, no.
Yep. Ron, thank you very much, Ron. Thank you very much. And now, John, coming up after the break, we have Charlie Gasparino, who's got some inside scoop.
Go woke, go broke.
Just steps from Madison Square Garden, Macy's, and Broadway theaters, DK Restaurant is a contemporary steakhouse that boasts a sleek marble bar, deep red leather banquettes, and candlelight tables. Perfect for lunch, a drink, after work, or dinner before the big game. DK Restaurant will surely entice guests to come back for more. Go to DKRestaurantNYC.com. Call 212-695-5220.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we're back, John, here on Cats and Cosby. New Treasury Secretary, of course, picked by President Trump, has to go through the nomination process. What did you think of the choice, John? What did you think of Scott Bessent?
Our friend Alexandra has been pushing that, and I always respect Alexandra.
Me too. She said he's terrific.
He said he's terrific. I met him once. But I don't know. Let's see what Charlie Gasparino has to say.
Yeah, go woke, go broke. Charlie Gasparino, what's your reaction to Scott Bessent as the Treasury Secretary pick? There was a lot of back and forth, which we talked about on the show, Charlie.
Oh, yeah. It was a nice fight. I don't know. I wrote a whole recap on how the whole thing has hurt Howard Lutnick's standing because he went for it. The job itself, he was head of the transition team. Full disclosure, I've known Howard. I actually like him. But he kind of hurt his standing by being so aggressive in trying to get it. And then, with the Bessent people believe that he badmouthed Bessent, which held up the selection process for a while. Be that as it may, I think Bessent is good. I mean, he understands markets, which is necessary for a Treasury Secretary. He understands the debt problem, again, necessary for the Treasury Secretary. He definitely understands the hole that Janet Yellen, the outgoing Treasury Secretary, did when she literally papered over the budget deficit with short-term notes, just kept rolling them over instead of locking in at longer rates. Now, she did that because, guess what? She didn't want to raise 10-year rates, which would have crushed the stock market during an election year. Trust me, the people, this is one of the biggest problems fiscally that the Treasury Secretary is going to face, is this sort of debt management issue that could have an impact on interest rates. He understands that. And, what's good about it is, he's definitely on board with Trump. I mean, listen, Trump needs people in his cabinet that are on board with MAGA. And if they're not, they shouldn't be there. It's just he can't. I don't think he should be dealing with people like Rex Tillerson, who are just not supporters. You know what I'm saying? And all these generals that kind of were backstabbing him. I mean,
we talked about it. Peter King, and we're still trying to convince him. January 6th was that those generals didn't send in those troops.
Yeah, the 10,000.
I'm not defending the generals. I'm just saying Trump should have done more. That's all.
Charlie, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying.
Sorry, Charlie.
Well, I know January 6th wasn't a good look. Let's face it.
Now,
I'm not going to go there, but he does take that out of the equation. Trump still saved us from Armageddon, in my view. Just based on you look at every. By the way, John, you look at every cabinet post. Put those up against the clown show you had with the Biden administration, from Mayorkas, who just was fumbling and allowing people just jump across a river, a stream to get into the U.S., to, the Health and Human Services Director that was normalizing transing of kids, to, Janet Yellen, who still thinks that inflation was transitory. I mean, the defense guy, Lloyd Austin, who, botched the Afghanistan withdrawal in just one of the most embarrassing spectacles in U.S. history. I mean, this is one stupid. Pete Buttigieg, who was on paternity leave during the
3 months in the middle of a crisis.
And the backlog, the crisis that led to inflation. These people are imbeciles, and they're being replaced by, I think, really smart people. By the way, who's the head of the education department? I don't even know. The guy from California, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
he was the former AG of California. I forget his name. I mean, he's a woke, lightweight joke.
Right. We had to think about who it was, because that's how important he is.
No, it's a Secretary of Labor, I think it was.
No, it was, I thought it was Health and Human Services.
Yeah, Javier Becerra.
Yeah, it was Health and Human Services. He was a congressman with Peter King, and then he became Attorney General. And it's not Peter King's fault.
Now, it isn't? 1 second, guys. I want to, Trump told Powell to go fly a kite, but he says, I'm not leaving. He says, Trump says, I got your replacement ready for you already. Where are we?
Well, it's going to be not easy to get rid of him because it's the most independent of all these agencies. Like the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, could theoretically pull something like that, and Trump could do a recess appointment and paper him over and lock him out of the building and not give him computer access. I mean, there's stuff that he could do to make his life miserable. Powell, it's a little more difficult because remember the Federal Reserve was created in I think 1913 by Congress as a quasi-independent agency. President approves it. Congressional nominates, Congress approves, and he's got a set term limit, which is done in 2 years. But Trump could make his life miserable for him. I mean, remember when Jerome Powell started raising rates a couple of years, I think it was 2018, 2019, and the market started selling off. Trump went ballistic on Twitter and embarrassed the guy into stop raising rates.
And the guy says, "You're not going to do that to me again." Well, guess what?
Oh, yes, you are.
Trump is going to cut his throat and cut his throat in Macy's window.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be brutal. Jerome Powell, I don't think he's got the cojones to stand there when Trump tortures him, and I think Trump will probably sue and do stuff to try to By the way, the Fed needs to be less independent, and here's why: as its independence, it caused inflation. I mean, who are these guys? These guys printed money like crazy and gave us half of the problem with inflation was on Jerome Powell's doorsteps. He should have stopped printing money when the economy was clearly recovering. Biden was the other half. He kept spending money in an expansion, which is stupid.
Yep.
And both of them together, a tag team of morons, screwed up the American working class.
It screwed the entire American people. Thank you so much, Charlie, and let's catch up soon. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too, my friend.
Thank you. And Rita, you have some hot news today.
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
Well, President-elect Trump's federal election interference case and documents case are both being dropped by the special counsel. Jack Smith filed a motion to drop the felony charges connected with Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and soon after filed a similar motion to drop charges tied to the classified documents case. And also, a record number of Americans are planning to hit the roads and airports over Thanksgiving holiday. AAA expects nearly 80 million people will drive and fly between tomorrow. Wow, that's amazing. And everybody coming up, stay tuned. Congressman Byron Donalds from the great state of Florida, right after the break.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77.
Is that a Florida song?
It is because the Sunshine
State.
Sunshine State. And joining us now is the congressman from Florida, one of the great ones there, Byron Donalds. Congressman, we're so happy to have you back here on Katz and Cosby.
Listen, it's my pleasure to be on. How you guys doing?
Well, the sun goes down awfully early.
We miss it. We're jealous.
Tell us.
Don't be too jealous. It's getting dark here too right now. My wife's upset. She wants more sunshine. So, maybe we got to do something about daylight savings. I think it's about time.
I agree.
I think you're right. I think it's about time, and just have the same time year round, and whatever it is, it is.
I agree. What's going on in Florida there? There's a lot of shell pieces, Congressman. We were just seeing Jimmy Petronas, of course, the chief financial officer there. I assume you know him there. There's rumors that he might maybe try to go for the Gates seat, for the Matt Gaetz seat, and Trump apparently has been very supportive of him. Where do you see all the pieces? Because then, of course, there'll be a Senate seat open with Rubio too.
Yeah, look, it's what's happening is down here we've been saying for quite some time we need to make America Florida. And it looks like that's what President Trump is doing. So many picks coming out of Florida. And look, we in our view, we're the best state in the country. We do this right. That's why more people are coming to Florida than any other state in the country. A lot of them leaving New York for obvious reasons, not just the weather, but the entire climate is great. Business climate, school climate, political climate. People are allowed to live their life and live it to the fullest here in Florida. And so the president is taking advantage of the talent we have here, bringing them to the nation's capital so we can get America on track the way Florida's been for a very long time.
Hey, Byron, this is Pete King. Just to let the listeners know, you're also one of those people who left New York.
Yeah, I did, man. I left right after high school. I went to college in Tallahassee. I went to FAMU first, and I went to Florida State. Graduated from Florida State, and I got to tell you, Pete, when I got off the bus, the Greyhound bus, because I left it from Port Authority at 17 years old, got into Tallahassee, Florida. When I got here, I looked at the weather and I said, "Man, it's so hard to go back." And I just never did.
Even in July and August.
You really need to be back here, but I guess you made the right decision.
In July and August, in the city, the 3H days, hot, hazy, humid, it gets hot. At least we have ocean breeze down here. So
tell us what else is going on.
Well, right now, we're getting focused on, in the House anyway, of getting the president's agenda done. I know all the talk has been about the cabinet picks. The president has made phenomenal picks for the cabinet because they all have one mission in mind, and that's to make the country great again, and he's going to do that. He has a mandate to do it, and he's going to see it through. In Congress, our job is making sure we have all the language set up so that we're ready to go, get these bills voted on, get them to the president's desk as soon as possible. So I know when I get back to D.C., there's several meetings that are going to be happening around getting the agenda actually written and accomplished so it's prepared to pass both chambers of Congress. The way we're looking at it, we don't have 4 years under President Trump. We have 1 year to actually put real wins on the board, get real changes for the American people, so we can demonstrate what are the changes that President Trump led on, that he made, that we followed through to make sure it got done. And then hopefully the people continue to trust us with majorities in the House and in the Senate.
Well, and Congressman Byron Donalds, you were by the president's side so much during the campaign trail, rumored also on that short list for VP. They love you in the party and across the country. I want to ask your thoughts on how big of a fight it's going to be ahead with Democrats, because there are a lot of Democrats, like even within on this mass deportation. We've been talking about it. There's been it's like a battle royale. It seems like every day we're hearing from another leader who says, "Oh, no, don't come into my community." How big of a fight is that going to be in Congress, too?
I mean, it's going to be a fight, but at the end of the day, I think that what's going to happen is, number one, we need states and cities to follow the law. And current law, with the way federal law is set up, you're not allowed to issue sanctuary status. That's number one. Number two, we may not agree with it, but the president of the United States has plenary power, according to the Supreme Court, plenary power to actually execute immigration and border security laws. This is one of the reasons why we've been so frustrated with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because there was a lot of deference given to the president on how to execute border security measures. We know what Donald Trump's going to do. Now, these blue state governors and blue state mayors, they need to step up and follow suit. If they don't, as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't get federal funding. Because what you're basically telling the United States Congress and you're telling the federal government is that if you don't get your way, you're simply not going to follow the law. Forget following political parties. Forget following politicians. This is federal law we're talking about. And if you can't comply with the law, then you shouldn't get the people's money. That's how I think.
Yeah. Do you think that the administration and also Congress, you guys there will reinforce that?
Well, I think the administration is definitely there. It's going to come down to Congress. And this is where members of Congress have to be willing to step up, especially in some of these blue states. Look, we got Republicans in blue states. We all know that some of them are my friends. And they work really hard. They won re-election. Congratulations. It looks like Mayor Adams is going to follow through and allow for deportations out of New York. That's what's signaling and happening there. But if you have Governor Hochul who wants to stand in the way of what Mayor Adams is trying to do, that's going to be a problem. And so I think that, you have to use every tool in the toolbox in order to make sure that we get people out of our country. That's what the American people wanted. Our colleagues who are in blue states, they're going to have to step up on this instance and make sure that these deportation proceedings happen. We have 3 new members out of Colorado. Colorado's obviously a blue state. So you have the Denver mayor saying he won't comply. You have the governor of Colorado saying he won't comply. Well, we have 3 members of the congressional delegation that are Republican. So how's that going to play out? I already know one of them.
And the governor from Arizona. The governor from Arizona refuses to, get rid of the migrants, the ones, even criminals.
Yeah. And so for people in these states, elections do have consequences, and I think that we need to do everything we can do, make sure that we are starting the deportation process immediately. You know Tom Homan's going to do that.
Yep.
President Trump definitely is going to order that. And then what's going to happen in these states, people are going to see. And so, New York was trending more red this year. It didn't go red, but it was trending more red. New Jersey trending more red. Arizona trending more red. And so it's going to be incumbent upon citizens in these states to tell their leaders at the ballot box one more time that they mean business.
Yeah.
So job one, supporting President Trump's agenda. He has a mandate. After that, if we have to go through another election cycle to demonstrate that the people are serious and they're not kidding, then so be it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us and fighting the good fight. Come back again soon.
Of course, anytime, guys.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
get
you.
that sunshine up. And now we got Miranda Devine.
Yes, we do. The great New York Post columnist. Miranda, you wrote a column. It says The Tragic Ashley Babbitt and the Buried January 6th Truth. Take it away.
Yeah, hi, guys. Thanks very much for having me on. Look, basically, I think that the Trump administration is going to ensure that the January 6th narrative is rewritten to reflect the truth instead of the lies that were spun by Nancy Pelosi and her January 6th committee with, Liz Cheney on it. And first up, we've got this cop, the cop who fatally shot Ashley Babbitt back on January 6th, very tragically. Michael Bird is his name. Now, we now find out that he was rewarded with a promotion and a $36,000 bonus. He was allowed to take off work for a year.
Fully
paid. Yep, fully paid. And then the Capitol Hill police.
Did they tell him to go to Antarctica so they can't testify?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think he'll have to testify. And now, the Barry Loudermilk, who's the Republican rep who leads this subcommittee on oversight that's looking into the whole circumstance of January 6th, wants him to testify and has sent a letter to the current commissioner or chief of the Capitol Police demanding answers about this very cushy treatment, much kinder than to any of the other police officers from the Capitol Police who were caught up in the January 6th. A lot of them got $8,000 bonuses for their work on that day. Why he got $36,000. On top of that, I'm told that there is no police service in the entire country that would have put up with or allowed an officer who had shot someone fatally to have this kind of treatment.
Horrible.
I mean, there was none of it was public. We don't know exactly what happened. There was no disciplinary action, and he was treated with kid gloves.
Wow. Judge Weinberg.
And Miranda, why wasn't this case ever submitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office for a presentation to a grand jury to investigate?
They own the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly right. Everything about January 6th, including the fatal shooting of Ashley Babbitt, is very unusual. None of it is what you would have anywhere else. The Capitol Police is kind of a law unto itself. I mean, because the boss was really Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, the Capitol Police Board, and they also had the power to stop Stephen Sund, who was then the Capitol Police Chief that became the scapegoat for Nancy Pelosi. He was begging for National Guard backup, and they delayed it for over an hour, I think almost an hour and a half, because Pelosi just wouldn't make up her mind. McConnell's Sergeant-at-Arms had deferred to Pelosi's, and he just couldn't get an answer. And so she was quite happy for the mayhem to continue because she was concerned that the Republicans in the House who were allies of Donald Trump were going to be able to delay the certification of those electoral votes that day, and they probably would have been able to do it. And she didn't want that to happen. The Democrats were very keen for that not to happen. And so the riot that ensued stopped that from happening. So it was actually to the benefit of the Democrats, not to Donald Trump's benefit.
Wow, so many unanswered questions. Well, keep us posted, Miranda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Wow. Well, coming up, we have Roger Stone, who's always has some good inside scoop. That's after the break.
He always has some scoop.
Always.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And joining us now is Roger Stone, of course, close advisor to President-elect Trump. Roger, what do you make of all the picks so far for the cabinet, and what's still left? There's a couple sort of other ones sort of hanging out there.
Well, Rita, I'm particularly pleased with the selection and appointment of Scott Bessent. We actually broke that news right here on 77 WABC. I think some people look at his distant past where he worked in business for George Soros, not recognizing that he is an ardent supply-sider, tax cutter, cost cutter, a disciple of Larry Kudlow, who appears right here at 77 WABC. As we all know, the man who quarterbacked the economic revival under Donald Trump in his first term. I grilled Bessent right here on the air for an hour one Sunday, and I'm convinced that he is most definitely totally simpatico with the president's plans for growth and prosperity. And, of course, the big outstanding appointment is director of the FBI. This will be extraordinarily telling. Will the president go to former Congressman Mike Rogers, who I think was kind of a cheerleader for the Mueller investigation, or will he go with the stronger choice, Kash Patel, the man who ran the House Intelligence Committee investigation into the Russian collusion hoax? This decision, I think, will tell us a great deal about the direction of the administration.
Hey, Roger, this is Pete King. It was great talking to you outside the Garden 2 weeks ago. That was a great event, and it was great talking to you again. I think really key appointments are the Justice Department. Pam Bondi and all of the assistants, the deputies under him, under her, they are all solid people who are not going to put up any nonsense from the Justice Department or from the FBI, for that matter.
Congressman, I totally agree with you, and I, of course, salute your long service to the country and the people of Long Island. Great pleasure to see you most recently. I think you're absolutely right. I know Pam Bondi. She, of course, was the Attorney General of my home state. She's a tough woman. Anyone who thinks that she is not going to aggressively pursue justice and rebalance the scales so that we have a Justice Department based on the rule of law, not based on politics, well, then you don't know Pam Bondi.
Also, she has a team working with her that's going to work with her and not against her. They are all top appointees, starting with her and down the line.
I totally agree. I think this is the great difference. In 2017, Donald Trump was new to politics. He saw things in terms of party rather than philosophy. I think he's learned. It was a great president in his first term, but I think we're really poised for what could be a golden age of peace, prosperity, security, and justice for this country.
You know, Roger, you were just talking about Pam Bondi. One of the things that came out was that Trump is planning on obviously getting rid of Jack Smith, no surprise, and his team, no surprise either. Where do you see all of that heading and Pam's sort of role in that? Because, boy, she can really make, and you experienced this yourself. I mean, she can really set the tone of justice has to be colorblind. There can't be these crazy knocks on the door at 6 a.m.
Well, in a very strange way, in one sense, I'm disappointed. I believe that the appointment of Jack Smith, like the appointment of Robert Mueller, was unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. Neither one of those prosecutors was approved by the U.S. Senate to have those broad prosecutorial powers and unlimited budgets. There's no law that creates that position. They're not U.S. attorneys who would have been confirmed by the Senate. I really believe that Judge Cannon in Florida, who ruled that Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional, was correct. We're not going to get that ruling now because Jack Smith has correctly determined that he has no authority to prosecute a sitting president. That said, I think the charges against him, both in the so-called documents case, where I believe the presidential documents law allows the president, like Bill Clinton was ruled in D.C., to do anything he wants with those documents. And secondarily, the January 6th matter is a fraud. I heard Donald Trump tell people to march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. So I think that Pam Bondi needs to look into what I think was a politicized hit job on the president.
Do you think that there will be an investigation of the investigators?
Well, there certainly should be. Speaking as someone, who was the target of suburban perjury, Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a White House aide under Mark Meadows, the White House chief of staff, testified under oath that the president called me and General Michael Flynn on January 5th to find out what would happen on the 6th. There is no such phone call. That never happened. There's no phone record. There are no witnesses. I've talked to General Flynn. I've never talked to Mark Meadows on the phone or in any other mode of communications. And we now know that Liz Cheney, a member of the committee, basically went around Cassidy's lawyer and urged her to perjure herself. Yes, I think that needs to be investigated.
Yeah, Judge Weinberg, you're shaking your head, too, because
you're
right.
I think, Roger, you're absolutely right. This is a case that never should have been brought by a so-called officer of the court who never should have been appointed. He was illegally appointed. You're absolutely right, Roger.
Roger, what about also the D.A. Bragg case? Because the state cases are still hanging out there. You got the Fannie Willis case, and then you got the D.A. Bragg case. It's pretty incredible that he even did the filing the other day. We'll see what happens. But essentially said that he might just put the sentencing on hold till 2029, Roger. I mean, this is, he should be taking a cue from Jack Smith and saying enough.
Well, I would obviously defer to Judge Weinberg, who knows far more about this than I do, and I'm not an attorney. But I think either one of those cases, if they can ever get to appeal, would be overturned, would be thrown out. The problem, of course, is that, as I understand it, until you're sentenced, you can't file that appeal.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And by the way, her case is, listen, I don't know which, if I was giving a law school exam, Roger, I don't know which would be a more ridiculous case, the Georgia case or the Manhattan case. They're both ridiculous. Any good lawyer, any good judge would recognize that. They should never have been brought in the first place. They both should have been dismissed at the beginning.
And Judge, what about also the other one, the case, the elevated, assets case, where it's like the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Where there was where there's no injury, where the Attorney General of the state of New York abused her powers and got a guilty verdict from a judge who prejudged it, a judge who I know.
And he decided that Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million.
And set a number in excess of $400 million, where there was no damamages, and the banks were fully compensated. They said to do business with him again. You mean that case?
Yeah, that case.
That should be turned out entirely too, because there was no crime, there's no violation, civilly, criminally, or otherwise, and never should have been brought. Period.
Roger, your reaction? It is incredible. It's still hanging out there.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think that's why Trump's victory, just several weeks ago, is all the more significant. He didn't just win a smashing re-election and return to the White House. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to keep him off the ballot in 50 states. They tried to throw him in jail. And he still came back from all of that. That's why this is, in my opinion, an incredible tribute to his resilience, his stamina, his toughness, his persistence. It's why the victory is all the more sweet.
Are they looking for Peter King there? Is that what's going on, Pete?
Maybe it's the army.
Where's that song? They're coming to take him away.
All I know is, Roger, they sent the Army, Navy, and the Air Force to get you at your home in Florida when they indicted you. So you must be a pretty dangerous guy. God.
Doesn't even have a passport.
Roger, thank you very much for being with us, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Great to be with you. Many thanks. God bless.
Happy Thanksgiving, Roger.
Thank you, Roger. And you guys, what do we all stand for?
Truth,
justice, and the American way.
God bless America.